It's Fully Threaded Radio, episode 213.
So I was looking at some numbers, right? And I think the U.S. economy imports maybe $3 trillion worth of product. And our budget deficit, I think, is about $2 to $3 trillion or something like that. So, in order to offset our deficit, you would have to impose almost 100% tariffs. And that's the question, like how much are people willing to pay, right? So I think our general feeling is...
Yeah, it's interesting how even some people that have been out of the business for many, many years very often end up coming back. That knowledge is so valuable.
And I am very surprised to see a picture of Harpo the parrot there, actually.
Yes, Harpo the parrot made it into Link magazine.
It's time for Fully Threaded Radio.
It is Fully Threaded Radio, voice of the FCH sourcing network. If you buy, sell, manufacture, import threaded fasteners, well, this is the podcast for you. Hey everyone, Eric Dudas with you. And the co-host of Fully Threaded is with us as well. Brian Musker, good to hear your voice. We've had a few special reports out there. You usually don't jump in on those, so I'm glad to have you.
Right, I know. You could have also added even faintly interested in fasteners.
I toyed with the idea of adding in some play with the tariffs here, but geez, everybody is so sick of this, man.
I know.
As we're recording, the headline just dropped that tariffs on all countries aside from China will be waived for 90 days or suspended, I guess it is. But I don't know how exciting that is, Bri, because it's all subject to change by next Thursday,
Yeah, right, or even tomorrow, okay? But the stock markets were very happy to hear that news. They had a very large rise. Mind you, it's been a very large drop, so it's not as if we're anywhere rosy.
Well, we're getting whipsawed all over the place from many angles, and that's just the way it is these days. But some things are solid and dependable, as is this episode of Fully Threaded Radio. This is episode 213. We're publishing on April 10th, 2025. Dropped a couple of special reports dealing with tariffs, and they're mostly still relevant, even with this latest headline, Bri. And we've gotten a lot of commentary on that, so I know people are very interested, and I'm expecting that's going to continue, even though conditions are a little bit different at the moment.
Right. Watch this space.
Yeah. On the Fastener News Report today, Mike McNulty is joined by Brighton Best International President Jun Xu. And of course, they touch on the tariff issue. And I just want to remind everyone that it was recorded right before this latest headline.
Right.
So they have a lot to say, and I think it's still germane. And they touch on lots of other areas as well. So it's a very worthwhile conversation. I think it qualifies as the Mike and John show this time, Bri.
Okay.
Because that's the bulk of the episode. We're, again, trying to stick to our new tighter format, but we've also got a warm-up segment that we'll throw at you in just a minute here. Rick Perkhaus with Fastener Specialties Manufacturing and we've been toying with the idea of having this conversation for the podcast for a while, and Rick finally decided to pull the trigger on it. He's a small operator down in Florida. He's been running his family business for many years, and he's come to the point where he's weighing what to do to sell out, to create an ESOP, to find a buyer. What should you do? And a lot of folks in the audience, I think, will be able to relate to this one.
Yeah, the exit strategy game.
Yes. It's a slice of fastener life for many
Right.
small business people, and Rick's a really great guy.
And been an FCH member for years too.
That is true. One of the stalwarts.
Yeah.
So I was glad to get this one done. We've also got a Fastener Training Minute for you. This time, Carmen Vertullo addresses the issue of commingling fasteners for the purpose of electroplating. Actually, it could be any kind of plating, but he's just talking about grouping different lots and the pros and cons of doing that. That's the Fastener Training Minute.
Okay.
The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, tested, tried, true, Brighton Best. Global Fasteners, quality the first time. And Star Stainless. Right off the shelf, it's Star. Fully Threaded is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, Fastener Fair USA, J-Land Franco, MW Components, Solution Industries, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry USA. Let us know what you think of the podcast, folks, or if you hear any breaking headlines regarding tariffs,
Yeah, right.
FTR at fullythreaded.com. Fire away.
And I should note about our sponsors. We've had them for a long time. We've known them for a long time. We've been friends for a long time. And so I encourage you to consider them really first when you are looking for fasteners, because they really have made it possible for us to produce Fully Threaded.
Thanks for that. Good point, Bri. They're really our partners in all of that. And that includes the FCH Sourcing Network and the Fastener Distributor Index, which Mike McNulty and Jun Xu will be speaking about shortly. We should also thank all the participants. Now, I don't know if it's because of all this tariff upheaval, but participation this month in the survey was huge. We got a lot of feedback, and of course, they'll be covering the numbers and digging right into that. But I'd just like to say thanks to everybody who is out there every month. And, it fluctuates slightly all the time, but man, you guys really poured it on this month. If you're not participating in the FDI, the way it works is we try to just get one representative from each participating company. So we're trying to avoid getting redundant input and get a true representation of what's actually happening out in the market. And if you're interested in getting your voice into this survey, it's very welcome.
Yeah, and you should be interested, okay? It's your industry.
It's your industry. The website for that is fdisurvey.com. We send out an email every month alerting you that the survey's open, which it is for just a couple days, and it only takes, 2 minutes?
Right. It's a very simple, and it's anonymous. In other words, the people who do the analysis have no idea, because all that is stripped off what Eric sends them. When he sends them all the results. So they have no idea which companies have completed the survey.
Right. Well, it's not anonymous to us, but
no.
Put it this way, in 15 years, we've never had a complaint, and we're not going to let your information out anywhere.
It's anonymous as far as the rest of the world is concerned.
Right. Anyway, that's fdisurvey.com. Thanks to everybody who's out there participating, our sponsors, and thanks to you for listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
And those of you who did actually fill it in this month, thank you very much, because last month was a bit of a problem, okay? We had the browsers decided in their infinite wisdom to suddenly stop sites like ours from working, or that particular one, and it was caught us completely unawares.
Yeah, well, that was a little bit of a second-order effect from the ongoing cyber warfare, but yeah, it was a little bit of a headache last month, but we got it done. A little more manual work than usual.
Oh, yes. Right. Manuel labor.
Yes. All right, well, let's shift now and talk to Rick Perkhaus. He's used to doing hard work at Fastener Specialties Manufacturing. All right, Rick, good to talk to you again. How did we get onto this whole conversation about selling fastener businesses in the first place?
Well, I was listening to your podcast. I believe it was the most recent episode, and you spoke to Steve and his wife. Well, you didn't speak to Cheryl, but Steve and Cheryl sold their company, Sasco.
Right.
And I realized that really small companies like that, I mean, I don't know their size. I just know they're smaller than many of these companies that I deal with. And it's just, it made me really start thinking about an exit plan. And I need to put a lot of thought to that and put some pen to paper.
Yeah. Well, a lot of guys are out there in that situation. And of course, the market, as we were discussing, it's just nonstop acquisition, right? But it seems like it's bigger guys that are always involved. And I think that's one of the reasons you and I see eye to eye on so many things, Rick. Over all these years you've been with FCH, we're both still on the small side.
Yeah, and of course, I'm very envious of you and Brian. You're hanging out with the big wigs, and I'm still down here at my little wooden desk.
You get out to the associations at all? Are you doing CIFA?
I would like to do SIFA. That's coming up really fast. I don't know that I'll have time to plan a visit there, but I really would like to.
Yeah, they're right down there in your neck of the woods. Now, for folks who aren't familiar with Fastener Specialties Manufacturing, you're right there in north of Miami, right?
Correct. West Palm Beach is a little bit north of Miami and Fort Lauderdale. And we've been here for, 45 years.
And you've been running it for 34, right?
That's correct. I got into it in the early 90s when my parents were they weren't as healthy at the time. So I took leadership roles.
Wow. Yeah. Classic Fastener story. And so you've been driving this thing, and what markets are you serving these days? I mean, I know you do a lot of stainless.
We do a lot of stainless steel, a lot of duplexes, a lot of all the unusual metals, stuff, titaniums, 17.4s, just about any metal. There's a few metals that give us trouble that we have to say no thank you to, but most metals we sell every single month.
But you're operating on the manufacturing side and the distribution side, really, aren't you?
Yeah, we'd like to do more distribution, but it really is the manufacturing that makes the phones ring, or in this case, the emails come in.
Okay. I mean, you've been with FCH for many years. I looked up your account. I don't know if it's cool to share this, but it was 2013 you first got on.
Sure. No, we were happy to get on there. We were with Nationwide Directory before that, and they're a great company. But they were only permitted 500 items, and we wanted all 8,000 of our items on a list, and so that's then we came over to you, and it's worked out quite well. It easily pays for itself every year.
Oh, well, thanks for saying that. Well, in the old days, I would have edited that out, actually, Rick. But I think everything's cool there, and it's just the way the world goes. I mean, we're kind of going to delve into this whole idea of fastener companies acquiring one another and things changing in general. So, it's just what happens. But I was bringing it up really because you're using FCH really on the distribution side. And so we were talking about getting an exit plan together. However, we stumbled into that, and you have misgivings about it. Not that you're ready to do this immediately. We're not making a sales pitch here, but on the other hand, you never know. Maybe somebody is listening who might be interested in a company like yours, but you're doing a lot of different things and you've really struggled with this whole idea. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I really have. The whole idea of selling it really makes me nervous anyway, because this has been my entire business life. I graduated from college, and I've been here all this time, and I just the idea of selling it is very probably going to be an emotional period when I do sell it. So I'm kind of hoping someone wants to buy it from me and keep me and most of my crew on, which I know restricts a lot of buyers, but that's what I'm hoping for. Because I'm a fastener guy. I'm really good at talking to people and solving problems. I'm not the best guy to be behind, the minutia of running a business. It's just one of those things I'm not as good at. Clearly I've been here a long time, so I've been successful, but it's just not my thing. I'd much rather be the fastener guy than the business owner guy.
Now, are you running this pretty much solo, or do you have a partner that you work with?
I have no owner partner, but we have some great crew here that has been with me a long, long time, and I certainly would, love to share a portion of what I get with them. Hopefully, when it sells, we have to see how it falls out. I mean, this is truly my retirement. I don't have a great retirement in other ways, so I definitely have to take care of my wife and I into the future as I think about these things, and definitely have to move forward with this sooner than later.
No, hang on a sec though. Why is that? You're still a relatively young guy. I mean, we're about the same age.
Yeah, I turned 61 in a few weeks, so it's sneaking up on me.
Yeah, you're just a punk.
So yeah. So, and I've been doing this for so long. It's just so strange to even talk about this, we've been. I don't know. It's like when you work at something your entire adult life, it's just hard to imagine even growing the business faster than I have. It hasn't grown tremendously during my ownership, which is sort of a regret of some sort. But when I did have it bigger, I had about 19 employees at one time. I didn't do as well. So I shrunk it back down to about 13 employees. About, I think 8 of them are production employees. So we have a good crew, but it's easily manageable. I sleep well at night. I can come in a little bit later than some people do to the East Coast. I've just kind of grown into this great role. I'll stay till 7 or 8 o'clock at night sometimes, but it's a great little business, and I'm really good at the part that I do best. So hopefully I'll continue that long into the future.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think this is what some people call a lifestyle business in a way, Rick.
Yeah, I agree with you. It's that's why most of us get stuck here. It's interesting how even some people that have been out of the business for many, many years very often end up coming back. That knowledge is so valuable.
Do you talk to a lot of people that are in that position?
I do quite often. One of my hires, a guy named Bill, he's the son of the owners of a company called Precision Socket that's long gone. But when he was looking for a job a couple of years ago, I said, hey, I can't afford you, but let me know. And we ended up talking. He works for me. He does lots of other things as well. So he's a welcome addition to our crew, and hopefully he'll stick around a long time too.
He's kind of like an auxiliary guy for you now?
Yeah, I was falling way behind on quotes when I was doing more of it myself. And since he has all that fastener knowledge, he was able to step into the role. And he actually has machining knowledge also, which I did not have. I have book smarts when it comes to machining, but I don't have actual machining time in my life. So it was good to get someone who actually had the machining time. And he was able to add a really good perspective to the business, and he gets the quotes done more quickly than I can.
You ever see Robbie down there?
Robbie Chris has been sitting in this chair I'm staring at right now. He's been in my chair.
I'm not surprised.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I appreciated it when he first stopped by probably 20 years ago, and see him every now and then these days. And great guy.
Well, he'll be at CIFA, I bet you. I don't know that for sure, but he's one of those guys.
I'm guessing he would be, absolutely. I think it's closer to his home base, too. So if he's left his Florida home, I'm guessing he'll be up there.
All right. Now, speaking of running into people in your neck of the woods, I know it's a little distance because he's on the other side, but you ever run into Leo Core?
I have not run into Leo Core since last Fastener show I went to was actually, I was going to say Columbus, but I went to one in Orlando one year before they permanently went to Vegas. But that's probably the last time I ran into Leo.
They were down. That's before my time. When was the Orlando Fastener show?
Wow.
Was that in lieu of Vegas, or was that before they even started Vegas?
I believe it was before they went to Vegas permanently. They may have visited Vegas once up to that point, but I believe it was probably the very last one before they moved to Vegas.
Wow. And then for some of the folks in the audience who this predates them, for a while, Bannister McGuire tried to run the Fastener show east and west. So they had the Columbus and the Vegas, and then eventually Columbus kind of fizzled out. So now it's just the Vegas show. But for a while, they tried the traveling, and it went down to Orlando. So you saw Leo down there. Last time I saw Leo in Florida, it was at the NFDA right before the world shut down, when he and Tracy rented this beautiful yacht and took a whole bunch of NFDA people out of Naples, and that was amazing. It was a great way to have our last months of freedom before the world changed.
I remember that trip. I wanted to go on that trip so badly, but I had too many things going on here, so I wasn't able to leave this business.
Seems like a theme with you, Rick.
Yes. Unfortunately, a very lifelong theme of not going to things I really would like to have gone to.
Because you're busy, because you're a one-man show, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it was once a family business, so I had family help. Now that I'm the only family member, I still have great crew that I admire and perhaps love just as much. So I'm still a family style business, but I'm the only Perkhaus that's still working here.
Right. Well, I can definitely understand the emotional attachment you have to Fastener Specialties manufacturing. And getting back to this whole idea of struggling with an exit plan or coming up with a potential buyer, you mentioned that you were thinking a lot about the growth that you'd had over the years, or maybe just the lack of it. Mm-hmm. And I know exactly what you mean, brother. And I tell you, there's something to be said about lifestyle businesses and contentment. I've been thinking a lot about that since we decided we were going to record about this.
Yeah, that contentment is really where I've been living for the last 5-10 years. I want to be at least happy with it. I want my wife to appreciate me coming home when, perhaps before it gets, to midnight. Uh, there's definitely some things to be said about having some sort of life outside the business.
But just also in terms of how driven you feel yourself, because let's face it, a company like Field Fastener, for example, those guys do not take over the fastener world, in their own space at breakneck speed without a premeditated, very driven attitude. And we're all in different circumstances in that, but on the other hand, some of us are just sort of content to hang at the level we're at.
Yeah. I Field Fastener is someone we used to sell to quite often back in the day. And now they've kind of outgrown us, I think. But I think they're in a different sector of the business. But yeah, those guys have just grown like crazy. And this has happened to so many of our customers over the years. They've just, multiple locations and multiple everything. I'm used to just one place.
So what are you going to do? What's your next step? I mean, are you talking to people? Are you just thinking about this? I mean, what's your main idea here?
Really, there's lots of decisions to be made, but do I list it? Do I give it to the employees or sell it to the employees? Closing it down certainly is not an option. I hope to never have to do that. But selling it makes the most sense for my for my future and my wife's future. And I'll just keep on hoping that the buyer is willing to keep me on, keep most of us on if possible. And and we can keep on rolling down the road we're on already, hopefully with even more success, perhaps even with more financial backing, because that's always been the thing. I'd like to have newer equipment. Don't need it, but it would, that kind of thing would be really nice. It might make for more profitability. There's lots of things we can do around here that would perhaps run more smoothly if it wasn't just me.
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear on that one. So, okay, well, that's a very interesting perspective. We hear the other side of that idea all the time, so I'm glad you're out here talking about this with us, because it's something that we haven't really talked a lot about on the podcast. And who knows, maybe one of your strategies inadvertently is come on the Fully Threaded Radio podcast and tell the world where you're at, maybe your phone will ring, Rick.
Right. Yeah. As horrifying as it may be, maybe I'll get 100 calls.
We'll see what happens. I'm sure you'll let me know. So when I caught you earlier, you were actually out with the Fastener dogs. I remember seeing those guys out on LinkedIn.
Yes, that's absolutely true. I was walking the Fastener dogs, and when you called, and I had to be a few minutes late. So I appreciate you being patient with me.
Oh, no worries. Are you kidding? You've heard the podcast, and Brian and his menagerie over there. We got continuous fun with the wildlife.
Oh, yes. I'm so thankful that we don't have any more parrots. We used to have Fastener parrots here when my parents were around, and I've outgrown parrots. No more parrots. So, no, I sure appreciate you having me on. I know that this business has grown a lot since I was on in episode 70. So that was a lot of years ago, and gosh, so much has changed since then.
Wow, thanks for reminding me of that. Yeah, it's been a while. Well, we've been talking for a long time, Rick, and you've always been a guy who has been a helpful FCH member, through our ups and downs, and I appreciate that too.
All right. It's been great talking to you.
With Star Stainless, our personalized service and nationwide network of distribution centers allows you to order rivets, hose clamps, and fasteners from one source. Star continues to be your one-stop shop to consolidate vendors, reduce transactions, and save on shipping costs. Choose Star Stainless for a comprehensive inventory that meets all your hardware needs. Star Stainless Screw Company is a division of Linfast Solutions Group.
Gerbil Fasteners has consistently increased its stock inventory in Houston, Texas, as well as focused on developing new, innovative battery-powered cordless tools to improve industry efficiency. Our company's strategy is to provide a level of quality and innovation that stands out among the rest. If you are interested in being part of a brand that is revolutionizing the industry, make sure to contact Gerbil Fasteners today to see what we have to offer. Gerbil Fasteners, the leading rivet source.
At Worth, status quo isn't an option. Worth is a global supply chain solutions provider of fasteners, MRO, and safety products, along with value-added services like kitting and assembly, 3D printing, and engineering assistance. Find out what Worth can do for you at worthindustry.com.
Hey everybody, Jake Davis, BTM Manufacturing. When I'm fixing for some Vegemite, I listen to my boys Brian and Eric on Fully Threaded Radio.
And it's the news segment. Mike McNulty and Jun Xu will be up in just a moment.
Good.
Hey, Bri, the new Link magazine just hit the street. I looked at the digital version, haven't got my hard copy yet.
Right, and I did too. And I am very surprised to see a picture of Harpo the parrot there, actually.
Yes, Harpo the parrot made it into Link magazine.
Who at the moment is being very quiet while we're recording.
Check out page 32 for that. You have heard his cameo appearances from time to time on the podcast.
Unplanned.
Mostly. The cover this time of Link magazine is LinFast Solutions, and they've got a feature story. They cover all the member companies. Very good to see.
Okay.
And another one of our, well, the things cover to cover, friends and partners, but as many of you know, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service is celebrating their 25th anniversary. They've got a feature story in this issue too. Link magazine. Don't miss it. The Fastener News Report is brought to us by Volt Industrial Plastics, and the title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Star Stainless, Global Fasteners, and Brighton Best. One other thing to drop before we get to McNulty, Bri. Want to remind everybody that Fastener Week is coming up, the annual August Fastener Gala put on by the Midwest Fastener Association. And regular listeners already know full well that the Tough Mudder race is happening on August 23rd. We're shaping up to have a pretty good sized team this year. I think we're going to break all the records, and there's still time to get on board. You got plenty of time to train for this thing. It's just a 5K. There's a very low chance of extreme electrocution or drowning, so don't be afraid.
Yeah, why would you let that worry you?
Got a message here from Bob GQ Bear. He is the spiritual leader of the team. Tough Nutters is our moniker. He said every week he's going to be dropping on LinkedIn a thumbnail, I guess, of one of the obstacles. So if you follow Bob on LinkedIn, keep your eyes peeled for that. And if you're a team veteran, make sure you drop your comments in there. Get some energy going behind this thing.
Hopefully Bob will run out of obstacles before the actual time of the race. Otherwise, there's a lot of obstacles.
Yeah, I don't know how they do it, but they jam 20-some in that 5K.
Okay.
The good news for that, though, is it's not as much running because there's a lot of us on the team who just really, they're not into the running aspect of it. And so Fastener mud racing, it's all for fun.
And it is such sort of a fun day, actually.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And I'm looking forward to the news, Bri.
Really?
That's right. Why don't you do your thing?
I will. Okay. So now, for news about screws that you can use, here's Mike McNulty.
Thanks, Brian and Eric. This is Mike McNulty from Fastener Technology International Magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report, which is sponsored by Volt Industrial Plastics, makers of the world's finest plastic fasteners. Cinderella did not show up at the 2025 NCAA basketball tournament, and trade tariffs have reached a whole new level of reckless and destructive madness. But I am still focused on fasteners and ready to deliver today's Fastener News Report. In this episode, Brighton Best International President Jun Xu joins us to reveal the latest results of the Fastener Distributor Index, also known as the FDI. Also in today's broadcast, we have our top story on the EV fastener market and newsmaker headlines from Worth Industry, Martin Supply, Simpson Strong Tie, Easy Lock, the Las Vegas Fastener Show, the Industrial Fasteners Institute, Doka Fasteners, and more. On the back page, we're going to talk about executive orders. We'll get to all of that and the latest FDI results right after this.
Hey there, Fastener distributors. This is Heidi Voltrauer from Volt Industrial Plastics. As a fellow Fastener industry business, Volt knows you are always on the lookout for ways to help your customer while keeping costs in check. So, why not plastic? Listen, there's no argument that metal fasteners have to be used for certain applications, but when strength isn't the primary concern, why not explore the saving benefits of plastic? You not only save your company money, but also pass those savings on to your valued customers. It's as easy as picking up the phone or sending a quick email. Our team at Volt makes sourcing easy, and we look forward to helping you find exactly what you need when you need it. So, for all of your plastic fastener needs, you know the website, voltplastics.com. Please come by our booth at Fastener Fair. Hope to see you.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engine! Get ready to race ahead with Eurolink's time-tested fast, faster, and fastest freight options. Needed fast? Eurolink delivers. Needed faster? We'll shift into overdrive. Eurolink's fastest service has products at the finish line in a flash. Eurolink drives circles around our competition, providing turbocharged precision delivery for 25 years and counting. You can sit in the pits with no quotes or contact Eurolink's team to win the supply chain showdown. Stay in the race. Get hard-to-find metric fasteners delivered with Eurolink. Fast, faster, and fastest.
Solution Man, Ken.
Solution Man, you're my fastener hero.
Just doing my job, ma'am.
SOLUTION, SOLUTIO. Solution Industry. We are Solution.
Back to the Fastener News Report with Mike McNulty.
The seasonally adjusted Fastener Distributor Index for March 2025 increased to 52.6 after posting a 51.6 reading in February, seasonally adjusted. This was the second straight above 50 reading and the first one since October of 2024. The forward-looking indicator, also known as the FLI, continued its slide, impacted by the ongoing tariff chaos, dropping modestly to 47.0 versus 47.3 last month. Fastener Distributor Index data is collected and analyzed by the FCH Sourcing Network and Baird. The FDI seeks to identify demand, pricing, and outlook trends within the American fastener distribution industry. To get some insight into these results, we're going to talk to Brighton Best International President Jun Xu. Hi, John. Thanks for joining us on the Fastener News Report.
Hey, Mike. Glad to be back and happy to be here.
It's good to have you. The last time you were here was in February of 2024, and the numbers were 49 and 50 respectively. So we're different, maybe a little bit flipped about that. What do you think about the latest FDI results?
Yeah, certainly a year ago, the world was very different. So, I think, it's accurate. I think the March numbers, we certainly saw an increase in February and March. But, we do wonder if that was because of distributors trying to get ahead of the tariffs and the cost curves associated with that. The weaker forward-looking makes sense too. I think there's a lot of questions about demand going forward and what that's going to do to fastener consumption. I think it's in line. But man, like what a difference a year could make in terms of where we are now.
Yeah, who would have predicted that we'd be talking about tariffs nonstop? But
yeah,
I don't want to get ahead of anything. But a lot has changed. You're right.
Absolutely.
So if we look at the numbers in the report, the sales, customer inventories, and pricing all went up. Supplier deliveries and respondent inventories went down, and unemployment was unchanged. Any insights there?
I think that's accurate. I mean, I think people after the new administration was voted in, I think people kind of expected some of the tariffs coming down. So certainly if you can have the ability to, you brought in more inventory. The part that I don't think people really expected was how much of a window in time there was. And really there was very little. I think people expected much more of a sort of a review discussion process, but it was basically enacted unilaterally and overnight. And so there was very little time to react. So, but I mean, it doesn't surprise me that, people's inventories are up. Unemployment, being flat is a little surprising given kind of what's been going on in the government. And, the federal government's a big employer. My understanding is they've reduced maybe about 10% so far. So And then, what that does to, the commercial side of it too, because they're looking at contracts, with consulting companies and whatnot. So there's a lot of businesses that are in the commercial space that are tied to government spending. So it'll be interesting to see how that number fluctuates. I don't think it'll be flat for very long. That's just my gut feeling.
Yeah, I think that got my attention was the pricing hit the 80 point level on the reading. And I expect with these, the consequence of these tariffs, it's just going to keep going up, I think.
Yeah. So, with tariffs, it's, I figured that'd be our favorite word today.
Up, it's just the whole level's going up.
Yeah. It's cost, right? So, tariff is a tax on the cost of goods.
Exactly.
And, I think the reason why the president likes to use tariffs is because he actually has, basically unilateral authority to make changes as however he sees fit. And so, tariffs are a revenue to the government. Income taxes is also a revenue to the government, but you need congressional approval to change income taxes. So I think it's more, the reason why it's his favorite word and his favorite tool is because he has control, right? He has unilateral control.
The key word there is control, right?
Absolutely. And he's showing us how much control he actually has, and so yeah, it is a increase in cost, increase in taxes, basically, for the product. And how much of it is absorbed, or passed through. I think that really depends also on the type of product and the supply chain. I think my general feeling is that everyone pays for it. It's not, only the consumers pay for it or only the factories pay for it. Like, I think, the factories have to stay globally competitive, like the importers have to stay competitive, the distributors have to stay competitive. And so all on the chain, I think people are taking probably some parts of that. But ultimately, the importer of record pays the tariff. I mean, that's by law. So that's not going to change. But how that's spread out, I think it really depends on the type of product you're selling and the supply chain that is coming through.
And everything going up. I mean, a couple of comments I say, does anyone think that the government needs more money? That's my first comment.
Yes.
People in government do. Or that they're a good place to spend it. I don't think so. But
the government definitely needs more money. And this might, veer off topic a little bit, but, I think Elon, when he was doing his Doge work, I think he said something about finding computers at the Federal Reserve that just makes money. Like it literally just prints money. Mm-hmm. Or not like literally print, but it just creates serial numbers for money. And, like I think when we look at like balanced budgets, right? Like I think for a company, right, you have to make more than you spend. That's just kind of the nature of the business. I think for families, you have to, balance your budget. For government, you can just print money. And that's exactly what they're doing. The only question is, are people willing to buy this money, right? So, for example, the government issues treasuries, right? So let's just say they issue $1 billion of treasuries at 4% over 10 years. Well, after 10 years, when that money is due, they don't pay that money back. All they do is just print more money. Like they just go and print $1.5 billion.
The value of it goes down.
But people are willing to buy it, right? So as long as people are willing to buy the treasury notes, I think, the system can keep going. But the real question is when, at some point, and I think that's what they're tackling is, this deficit is getting so big and we keep printing so much money that at some point people are going to say, well, we don't really need to buy more dollars. And that's when you're, I think, really forced then to balance your budget. And you have to go and cut, a lot of spending and entitlements and all that.
Which they're trying to avoid.
Yeah. I mean, so I think everyone sees the problem, like there's a massive deficit. I think everyone realizes it needs to be resolved. People realize there should be some pain, but maybe don't want to go through some pain. So I don't know. It's a really tricky situation, I think, for the government to go through. But I think everyone can agree that the path that we were on was also unsustainable too.
You mean the spending path?
The spending path, yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is still going to continue.
Yeah, to some extent.
Doge stuff, but it's just like kind of like a couple percentage points. It's nothing.
Yeah, it's a drop in the bucket.
They're continuing the spending spree, and now they're going to try to get more revenue with the tariffs.
Right.
So how much can the average person tolerate of the price increases?
So I was looking at some numbers, right? And I think the U.S. economy imports maybe $3 trillion worth of product. And our budget deficit, I think, is about $2 to $3 trillion or something like that. So, in order to offset our deficit, you would have to impose almost 100% tariffs. And that's the question, like how much are people willing to pay, right? So I think our general feeling is, for like strategic industries, I think semiconductors and steel, we're okay with it, because it's sort of a subset of the economy. It doesn't really affect the demand entirely. But when you're taxing like everything that comes into the country,
blanket,
I can say for sure, like we sell gloves, right? Like glove factories are not going to set up in the United States. The way that I've seen,
and they take a long time to do any of that stuff too.
Exactly, so
it's going to happen in 4 years.
So there's there's actually a lot of reasons why it's just not going to come back. I think number one, the U.S. just doesn't have the workforce. The workforce doesn't even really want to do glove manufacturing. I think like what I've seen in the factories is just basically, lines of people. And, what's interesting about making gloves again is, if you just look at your hand, right, the natural position of your hand is curved. If you try to flatten it, it actually is uncomfortable, right? So machines are really good at sewing on flat surfaces, but gloves actually have to have a 3-dimensional shape in this natural state. So the sewing actually is in 3D. And that's really why you need people to do it, like because machines can't do it very well. So, to do that in the United States, the cost would be 10 times more. And I mean, at some point, you kind of have to ask the question, like, what do we want to make as a country versus what do we want to just buy cheaply because we just have to use it and buy it cheaply,
Right.
So there's just some products that are not going to come back. And, the other point that you brought up is that, these factories take time. I mean, but it's not just a factory, it's a factory to make that product. So whether it be a fastener, whether it be a glove, but it's also the supply chain behind it, right? It's the materials, it's the mills, it's, the logistics. So it's an entire supply chain that needs to move. And these things don't build overnight,
Right.
It takes years, but the way this environment has been changing, literally overnight, the business they don't have the confidence to make these long-term investments. If we know that's going to be like this for a decade or maybe 2 decades, then okay, I can see some people thinking, okay, to serve the U.S. market, we need to be there and do this and that. But if it can change by the time next week, all the factors that make sense for you to be there, and all of a sudden it doesn't make sense to be there, I see it being a very tough decision for businesses to say, what, we're going to make some these type of products in the United States. So it's, yeah, I mean, I think tariffs, like some product categories make sense, but for the stuff that we don't want to make as a country and we just want to buy cheaply, I don't think that makes sense.
Right. And even, you made the reference to like a family has to do certain things too. I mean, we all run trade deficits with certain businesses.
Right.
You go to the grocery store to get your groceries, they don't come to your house to buy anything from you.
Right. Right.
And it's just common sense. And so, yeah, I think, there's a place for targeted things and when people are abusing the system or companies or countries are abusing the system, but the blanket stuff where it's just everything, and then with trading partners, when existing trade deals are in place and that, it's just crazy.
And, the way that these tariffs are calculated, I don't think people really understood the calculation. So people think, okay, well, they tax me 30% on cars, and we're going to tax them 30% on cars. That's actually not how the reciprocal rates are being calculated. I think people looked into it, and I think basically it's the trade deficit that we have with any one country divided by the total trade we have with that one country, and that's how they're calculating the rates. So it's basically how much the deficit is divided by what the total volume of business we do with that country is, and then divided by 2, so the reciprocal rates are not tit for tat the way that people think it is. It's really just more on total trade volume.
All right. Well, let's move on back into the numbers a little bit here. I wanted to bring up the PMI, the Purchasing Managers Index. It had a streak of 2 months above 50, but that streak is over and it dropped below 49 this month around. So that little momentum is either gone or just a little blip. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't really track that one as much.
Okay.
So I mean, yeah, I don't know that index as well.
Okay. Well, the thing that we talked about in the last couple of shows, it was below 50 for a long time, like a couple of years, and then it got above 50. And I think, there's some people, maybe myself included, thinking that going into 2025, we had a chance here for some good growth. And that's getting kind of stymied now by this tariff stuff, I think. Especially with a lot of money and a lot of time and effort was put into nearshoring. I was in Mexico earlier this year, and then lots of stuff going on. And then they're just kind of like, whoa, we're just stopping.
I think it really goes down to what is the environment that companies are operating in. And if there's a clear direction, either way, right? Whether we're going full-blown globalization or whether we're going full-blown protectionism, I think people can adapt to it and make investments in that direction. The challenge is we're kind of in between that, we're not really in full blown either. We're in Trumpism, and he can change his mind at the flip of a hat. So, because of that environment and that uncertainty, I do think people are holding back their investments. They, even if you import a container from overseas right now, depending on the week that it lands, it could be 0% tariffs or 30 or 35% tariffs, and it's just how do you run a business like that, right? You can't time it.
Can't plan, right?
So you just have to do what you have to do. And just, it is what it is, right? But if you're going to think about buying capital equipment or building a factory and really spending money to build up production, if today it makes sense and tomorrow doesn't, are you really going to do it today to make it?
Yeah.
So
interesting times. The last numbers we have are here, the 6-month outlook for March, and was basically unchanged from February. Still somewhat gloomy. At 44% of the respondents think things will be better in 6 months, 22 the same, and 33 think it'll be worse. And that was pretty much the same as it was in February.
Yeah, I think that's a good balance. I generally do think people are more optimistic than pessimistic, especially in business.
Yeah, still 2/3 say same or better. So that's
yeah. So that's not bad. Business people, I think, tend to be a little bit more optimistic than pessimistic in general. So that I think is about even in my mind.
Okay, now we have the comments, which maybe we've already covered some of these, but I'm going to go through and read them. And if you want to jump in on any of these, then we can get a little bit extra commentary. The first one says, after an initial rush to stuff inventory before Trump's tariffs, most customers are now backing off. They all seem to hate the tariffs, rightly so, and are going to run out inventories before reordering, end quote.
Yeah, I think that goes in line with the March numbers being a little high, because I do think people were front loading a little bit.
Get it early. Oh.
Yep.
Then the next comment is similar. Says many customers are holding on orders due to tariffs. They have communicated they are waiting in hopes that countries will negotiate and the tariffs will be lower or eliminated in the coming weeks, end quote. That would be good.
I don't think people really know how to reduce those rates. I think the only way to really reduce those rates is for countries to literally buy as much as the U.S. buys from them, like that, or the way
Which is an arbitrary thing.
Yeah. So, some small countries, all they do is they specialize in making a certain thing.
Right. And they're good at it.
And they're really good at it, but they don't need to buy a bunch of stuff because their economy can't sustain it. So it'll be interesting. I think it'll play out in the next few weeks. I do think some of these reciprocal rates will probably go down, but I'm not sure people really know how it's going to go down. I don't think there's this formula out there that, that's very clear.
Right. All right. The next one got my attention, and it's something I've been thinking about, but it says, quote, tariff wars are killing all our time. More meetings in a month in the past 5 years. I think we would all be happy working with customers on fastener requirements rather than spending time addressing tariffs.
Yeah. I think that's true. I always feel like the best business environment is for government to not be involved, right?
Exactly.
Because just let the market take shape. But it's not the only, we're not the only country that's going through it. Right now, if you look at Europe, they have a lot of regulations going through, like the CBAM regulations, I think the Russia sanctions, they have a bunch of stuff going on too on their side. So it's not unique to the United States, where regulation is taking a lot of time to process.
And many times we're less regulated than others, so that keeps us still.
We are very much
head above the water, and people still buying our treasury notes.
Yep, absolutely.
But yeah, the whole thing with regulate, it's time spent on things that aren't really productive. Okay, the next two comments, I'll read them together. They're both about pricing. North American pricing increases are primarily due to tariffs, not higher costs of goods. And the other one is pricing would be trending about the same absent of the tariffs.
I think that's true.
Yeah, and that's why the pricing went up on the FDI this time. Okay, one more comment. It says, if not for the tariff turmoil, I would have interpreted March activity and results as proof that the industrial market cycle had bottomed out and was building momentum for the remainder of the year. Instead, I selected same for my answer on future activity. Selecting lower just felt wrong, even though it could very well be right, end quote. There's that semi-optimistic business person.
Yeah. So if you have 60% optimistic, 30% not, I mean, I think that's pretty much 50-50, in reality.
All right, good. So those are the comments. Anything else you want to add on the FDI before, or the FLI, before we let you tell the listeners what's going on at Brighton Best?
No, I mean, I think it's very time consuming. Tariffs, as the comments have noted, and there's a lot of confusion. And I think that's what's really kind of driving sort of that holdback in investment. Companies and businesses really need clarity, and certainty in terms of the market dynamics, one way or the other. When it changes back and forth all the time, I think that's the struggle that we all face right now.
Right. Yeah, things that are time consuming and confusing aren't really
not very productive, right?
Not very productive, right? Or fun, right? Not very enjoyable either.
Absolutely.
All right, good. Well, let's move on. I know you got a lot going on at Brighton Best. What can you tell the listeners what you guys are doing?
Well, this year's our 100 year. So, I mean, I think that's pretty special. We're going to, we've already done some things on the marketing end to highlight it, but, we're going to do maybe a little nicer party. We are Fastener people, so we're very pragmatic, but we are going to try to do a little bit better than usual for the Fastener cocktail party in Vegas. Some ideas are just like, the 1920s. We might do like a anti-prohibition, thing going on. So I don't know, like
speakeasies.
Yeah. I mean, and I think that's kind of speaks to the country too. I mean, like in the 1920s, like that's when prohibition was, and it's amazing how much the country can change in 100 years.
Right.
But no, we're very proud of it, and more than anything, I think it's actually quite humbling. To just know that there's been so many people that have worked at the company and built this legacy, and we really feel like we're just stewards of the brand, and our goal is to continue to build on it, and really in 100 years, have the next 100 years, have that team look back and say, we're really proud to be part of this, and to continue to kind of build on the dignity and character of the business. So yeah, I mean, it's actually incredibly humbling, knowing the people that have been part of the business.
Yeah, it's a great milestone, and I appreciate and enjoy the logos that you guys have created using the black and gold. It's eye-catching and something to be proud of.
Thank you.
I saw you guys are hosting Fastener Training Week this week in Ohio.
Yes.
New center there.
Yeah, we have a Fastener Training Center actually in Cleveland, and Cleveland, it's a great facility for us. It's the largest warehouse we have, but it's such a critical part of the fastener industry. Just that entire Midwest area. It's a big part of where our customers are, and training is something that's very important. I think in our industry. We do notice a trend. I think everyone sees it. Experience is aging out, retiring, and we're still relatively young in our years. And if we look at the next 15, 20 years, like we think about who's aging out and who we have, and really, I think every company, if you look at it and think about it that way, like we have to invest in people, we have to invest in training. So we're very much in support of any type of training. The FTI. We do our Fastener 101s, but any type of training we can do to bring the next generation of Fastener experience in. What we don't want to see, and I think it's certainly a negative for the industry, is when people turn into part number buyers, and you lose that experience, because it is a very unique industry in that way. And when it just becomes a part number, then you lose the character, you lose the relationships, you lose a lot of the value that you add, right, as a company to a process. And, the other concern we have is if it just becomes a part number, then it's really, well, who has the biggest marketing budget right, at that point? And there's some big players out there, like even Amazon is a huge player, right? So,
yeah,
it comes down to who has the bigger marketing budget to get those Google ad clicks. And then, that's not a game that any of us wants to play. So, we really do believe in fastener training, training the industry and anything we can do to support the industry in that way, we're fully on board.
Yeah, get an advantage with knowledge and understanding.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a critical part. It's a 2-cent part that can create so many headaches.
There's a lot of details.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So it's really important.
All right, on the conferences and shows, I know you guys were in Stuttgart last month, and you've got some stuff coming up with Pac West and CIFA as well as Nashville.
A lot of trade shows. We're just, talking about the value of attending so many trade shows. But, the Stuttgart show happens every other year. And, we have a facility in the UK that exhibits there. If you've been to the Vegas show, like Stuttgart is going to look like a whole different world.
Right.
Like the booths are massive. They have chairs and tables. Oh, yeah. And you get served food and like beer and wine, like you're sitting there, like
not just
literally, yeah. Like it makes you think, like, how do we upgrade the U.S. trade show experience, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, like they give you. I mean, if you could, I tend to like to go to the Spanish ones because they serve you the ham. So, so you kind of have your little around the world tour in terms of food, but. It's a good show. But the European market, you do realize too, it's just a very different market from the U.S. I think there certainly is the European trading bloc, but at the same time, I think there's a lot of differences between countries, and it's just not as integrated and as cohesive as the United States is in terms of a single market. So you certainly see and feel those differences when you're there. But man, they treat you really nice. Like you.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been to some European shows, and I think they get some governments helps them with their promotion in that.
Okay. Yeah,
I
maybe.
think that's the difference. They get some country pavilions and some money to help them with marketing and stand building. You got guys painting and drywalling their stands as opposed to the erector sets we have here.
I mean, it's like it's structural stands. Like they have second floors and meeting rooms and stairs and like, wow, this is for like just for 3 days they're going to build this. Like it's mind boggling.
Yeah.
But more power to them. I don't know. Like I always go back to, we're fastener guys, like nuts and bolts guys. And, I think practicality is, kind of screwed on pretty tight with us. And I can't envision us ever doing that. But if someone else were to do that and why not enjoy it? Right.
Yeah, definitely. I'm coming up. I see you're going to be speaking at the Pac West event on May 1st on a panel. So if listeners out on the West want to check it out.
Yeah. Thank you. So yeah, I do that once or twice a year, and it's just good to.
It's in your backyard.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to say no, right? But I do enjoy them because you just get. Everyone's just stuck in their day-to-day work. And when you have to do some of those presentations, sometimes you have to just like step out and look around and get a feel for what's going on. So it helps you actually solidify a big picture and to understand better what's going on rather than just, everyone's on their own road and
staring at yourself.
Exactly.
All right. Well, we always appreciate having you on, giving your insights, and things are going on. And I don't know what will happen a year from now.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think you've said before it's hard to predict 3 months in advance. So
yeah. No, this last 3 months was definitely a doozy. So we'll see.
All right, very good. Well, we'll look forward to seeing you out at conferences or trade shows, Vegas, Nashville, Pac West, CIFA, etc. So keep up the good work, and we look forward to having you back on again.
All right, thank you.
That was Brighton Best International President Jun Xu. The FDI number for March 2025 was 52.6 versus 51.6 in February. Visit FDIsurvey.com to participate in the process and get a detailed PDF copy of Baird's monthly analysis. Now for today's top story. According to market research firm StratView, the global electric vehicle fasteners market, also known as the EV fasteners market, is projected to witness a growth rate of 13.5% per year from 2024 to 2030, with a resulting market size of $20 billion by the year 2030. StratView launched a report on the global EV fastener market, which provides a comprehensive outlook on the global and regional industry forecasts, current and emerging trends, segment analysis, and competitive landscape. Global EV fasteners market is segmented based on vehicle type, application type, material, threading type, fastener type, and region. Rivets represent the largest fastener type, and nuts hold the second dominant position. In terms of region, Asia Pacific, led by China, is the strongest, followed by North America. Other strong countries include the USA, Germany, France, and the UK. The EV fastener market is highly fragmented with over 50 players involved. Leading companies that manufacture fasteners not only for EVs, but also serve a wide range of other industries, including aerospace, electronics, medical, and construction. StratView Research has identified the following companies as the top market players for EV fasteners: ITW, Stanley Black & Decker, Shanghai Prime Machinery, Lisi Automotive, and Bolton. You can see an article on this report in the April-May issue of Fastener Technology International magazine on pages 146 and 147, available at fastenertech.com. Next up, today's Fastener Newsmaker headlines. In corporate news, Worth Industry expanded with a new distribution center in Columbus, Ohio. Martin Supply opened a new distribution center in Elizabethtown, Kentucky. Nedschaft Plettenberg of Germany secured a €1 million deal to supply cap nuts with plastic sealing washers for battery packs. Simpson Strong-Tie opened a new distribution center in Las Vegas, Nevada. Rocket Industrial expanded its line of Zenith fasteners. CJK Industrial in China enhanced its operations to meet increased demand, and Chicago Rivet and Machine celebrated its 105th anniversary. In personnel news, Easy Lock introduced Grant Govell as its business development representative. The International Fastener Expo, also known as IFE or the Las Vegas Fastener Show, named Carrie Tyler as its new show director. The Industrial Fastener Institute, also known as IFI, elected Sebastian Janis, president of SEMS and Specials, as the incoming chairman of its Industrial Products Division, and Jose Gianniero, managing director of JM Tor Par, was elected vice chair for the same division. And Mads Katstrup Olsen joined Doka Fastener of Norway as its new sales and marketing director. You can get details on all of these stories and more in Fastener Technology International magazine and the Fastener News Report monthly newsletter, both available online at fastenertech.com. Now let's turn to the back page to talk about executive orders. Now that executive orders have become the most favored and probably most abused tool of the modern-day presidents in the United States of America, I thought it would be wise to revisit their definition, historical use, and evolution. Basically, in the United States, an executive order is a directive by the president that manages operations of the federal government. The U.S. Constitution does not have a provision that explicitly permits the use of executive orders, but Article 2, Section 1, Clause 1 of the Constitution simply states, quote, "The executive power shall be vested in the President of the United States of America," end quote. Sections 2 and 3 describe the various powers and duties of the President, including taking care that its laws be faithfully executed and enforced unless they are laws that the President doesn't like. Well, wait, I made up that last part, but some of the presidents seem to think that's true. Furthermore, the U.S. Supreme Court has held that all executive orders must be supported by the Constitution, whether from a clause granting specific power or by Congress delegating such to the executive branch. Attempts to block executive orders are successful at times when such orders either exceed the authority of the president or could be better handled through legislation, also known as laws, which are not part of the duties of the executive branch. Historically, every president except for William Henry Harrison, who died in office, has issued executive orders. John Adams, James Madison, and James Monroe each issued one, and George Washington recorded 8, and Thomas Jefferson had 4. The first 15 presidents issued a combined total of 143, and Abraham Lincoln had 48, the most recorded at the time. On the high end, Teddy Roosevelt was the first to top 1,000, Woodrow Wilson escalated his above 1,800, and FDR broke the bank with 3,721 orders that might have inspired the presidential term limit amendment to the U.S. Constitution. Since then, no president has passed 1,000 orders, but Harry Truman came close at 907. In terms of speed, President Joe Biden's 42 executive orders in his first 100 days of his presidency were more than any other president at that time period since Truman, who was managing the country at the end of World War II. In early 2025, President Donald Trump easily outpaced Biden by issuing 104 executive orders in his first 65 days of office, breaking FDR's old record of 99 in his first 100 days. Obviously, executive orders would be expected to rise during times of war and other emergencies. But these orders are abused when actual emergencies are extended or expanded in scope, or when non-existent ones are declared emergencies by the champions of the corresponding executive orders. This is where problems start and the damage of unintended consequences take root. The current and 2019 tariff executive orders cite the International Emergency Economic Powers Act from 1977, which authorizes the U.S. President to regulate international commerce after declaring a national emergency in response to any unusual or extraordinary threat to the United States. This seems to be a favorite move of the current administration. And for the record, there are no national emergencies related to trade deficits, as anyone can learn in an entry-level economics course. Congress can end this tariff madness in one session by repealing the above-mentioned Economic Power Act of 1977. This has been Mike McNulty of Fastener Technology International magazine, bringing you the Fastener News Report. Please send your news, pictures, comments, correspondence, or complaints to me at mcnulty@fastenertech.com.
At Brighton Best International, our Pro-Furred screws are built to provide exceptional performance and reliability for a wide range of self-drilling screw applications. Each Pro-Furred self-driller is crafted with precision to meet the highest industry standards, offering durability, speed, and strength for construction projects. To learn more about Pro-Furred screws or view our technical information, visit profurredscrews.com.
Hello.
Hello.
You've been walking the Fastener Show for a while?
Yes. However, I'm wearing very comfortable shoes.
How would you like some Old Rusty Bolt beer?
I'm not a smart man, but Mama warned me about these things.
Well, that's probably because Mama never tried Old Rusty Bolt. Only the finest beverage in the fastener business.
All right. I'll give it a try. This is pretty good. I'm starting to feel funny. Jenny! Something's happening. Whoa. I feel.
Sum of the square roots of any two sides of an isosceles triangle is equal to the square root of the remaining side.
Old Rusty Bolt, making the fastener world feel smarter, one beer at a time. So how do you feel?
I gotta pay.
I believe he said he had to pee. The preceding message was brought to you by Buckeye Fasteners and the Ohio Nut and Bolt Company, proud Fastener Show sponsors of Old Rusty Bolt beer, official beer of the traveling salesman.
Well, hello, everyone. This is Carmen Vertullo coming to you with the Fastener Training Minute from the Fastener Training Institute and Carver Labs in beautiful El Cajon, California. Today's topic, as usual, comes from an email question from one of our students, actually, in the Fastener mentoring group that we do online. And it had to do with commingling fasteners for the purpose of electroplating. Commingling means basically you take more than one lot and you send them out for plating, and we do that because the lots might be particularly small and we can save money. So when we return, I'll tell you the ins and outs and ups and downs of commingling fasteners for the purpose of electroplating or any plating or coating operation.
Looking to stay ahead of the curve in fastener technology? Then you can't miss Fastener Fair USA. The industry's must-attend event is coming to Music City Center in Nashville, Tennessee on May 28th and 29th. Discover cutting-edge innovations, meet top manufacturers and suppliers, and network with industry leaders at our opening night party at Honky Tonk Central, right on world-famous Broadway. Plus, your Fastener Fair USA badge gets you free access to the co-located Aluminum USA show, offering more business opportunities than ever. Register now at FastenerFairUSA.com. We'll see you in May.
Well, welcome back, everybody. This is Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute, talking today about commingling fasteners for purposes of plating or coating or whatever other kind of miscellaneous processing you might want to do to them. And the reason we would do that is because with small lots, we can combine them and it's a little bit cheaper. So what are the implications? Well, first off, if the fasteners are very similar, let's say they're socketed cap screws, except they're a different size, no problem whatsoever. Theoretically, you're going to sort those out and you're going to maintain your lot integrity that way. Try to make them similar sizes. Don't send some 440 socket screws with some 3/8 bolts or something like that. But as long as they're similar and they're steel, it doesn't matter if they're grade 5s and grade 8s or alloy steel, heat treated or mild steel, you'll be fine with that. Be careful, larger screws might damage smaller screws in the barrel, so consider that. Now, if the screws are exactly the same and they're just from two different lots, then you might have a little bit of an issue. The Fastener Quality Act actually allows us to commingle two lots. Keep in mind, any testing that you would do to these fasteners, you would have to maybe, like for hydrogen embrittlement testing, double the sample size to ensure you got some from both lots. And hopefully maybe the lots might be different manufacturers, so you could tell by a head mark, or they might have some tooling marks that would help you sort them, not necessarily sort them out, but sort them out for the purpose of testing for hydrogen embrittlement if that was one of the cases. Well, I hope this helps out anyone who's thinking of commingling fasteners for the purpose of plating. You might also consider assigning them a new lot number consisting of both of the existing lot numbers, or most of our ERPs allow us to create new lot numbers these days to handle that problem. Well, there might be more to that than I'm thinking of right now, but I think that answers the question. This has been Carmen Vertullo with the Fastener Training Minute. Thanks for listening.
This is Jason Baines of J-Line Franco Fasteners, and you're listening to Fully Threaded Radio.
Brian and Eric back with you to close out another one. Hey, if you're catching this episode in April and you're on the West Coast or kind of out in that region, you can catch Jun Xu at the PAC West. He'll be there May 1st. As he mentioned, he's doing a panel during their vendor showcase. And of course, there's an obligatory cocktail hour connected to that too, Bri.
Oh, really?
Of course.
It's a surprise.
So again, if you're checking this out in April. Now, I don't know if you caught this or not. We dropped a special report a few days back with Michael Knight from Endries. He was speaking on the tariffs, and that got a lot of traction. It was pointed out to me by numerous people that I made a little kind of a time traveling mistake there, and I said we were recording in May, even though we were in early April at the time. So thank you, everyone, for pointing that out. I did fix it, but whole lot of people heard it in the original version, so don't worry, it's fixed now. Yes, even we here at Fully Threaded Radio are inclined to make a mistake now and then.
Or make use of Doctor Who's time machine.
Yeah, we need a TARDIS sometimes.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I'm always thinking in terms of what happened 2 months ago, or sometimes what's going to happen next month, you know, with this FDI stuff and the quarterly financials and the shows planning it all. You never know where you are.
That's true.
But we're here now. And, speaking of Brighton people, also got a message here from Rosa Hearn. She and Joe Schumacher, he, of course, is with AFC these days, practicing his craft. They're doing a marketing workshop this year at the International Fastener Expo out there in Vegas.
Oh, okay. That's cool. Well, that's Rosie the Riveter's specialty, actually, isn't it?
Right. Last year she was involved in one of those as well, got rave reviews. So yet another reason to make it out to Vegas. We'll be covering some of the developments with that. We're trying to get Fastener Fair
out of the way first.
Well, yeah, under our belts.
Right.
Shows stacked up. You know, Fastener Fair Stuttgart just went down, We didn't cover it on the podcast, Bri, but I did record a conversation with Craig Penland of Eurolink, and I'll be dropping that very soon. So if you're curious what happened this year at Fastener Fair Global, Craig and Kim made it out there, and sounds like it was another huge one. Of course, that's every other year they do that.
Right. One day I'll get there. I'd like to go and just wander around.
I really would too, especially after what John was just saying. I mean, sounds like you could pretty much take your pick of European cuisine when you're there.
Well, remember that Europe's all compressed. You're only like 120 miles from France and about probably the same distance from Italy, so you're surrounded.
Surrounded with good things to eat. And if you're at Stuttgart with fasteners as well, surrounded by fine food and fasteners. How could you beat that, Bri?
Yeah, I know. What more could you want, really?
Exactly. The title sponsors of Fully Threaded Radio are Brighton Best International, Global Fasteners, and Star Stainless. Fully Threaded is also sponsored by Buckeye Fasteners, BTM Manufacturing, Eurolink Fastener Supply Service, Fastener Technology International, InSequel Software, Fastener Fair USA, Jlan Franco, MW Components, Solution Industries, Volt Industrial Plastics, and Worth Industry USA. Thanks so much for clicking into the podcast, folks. And thanks for all your comments on the reports that we've been dropping. More to come. Stand by.
Right.
Thanks to you too, Bri, for shoveling all that data over there at the FCH Data Lab. There's just no end.
I know. There's more of it going on yet too.
The good thing you got Harper over there to look over your shoulder.
Yeah, I know. Right.
All right. Well, that will get out of here. Keep your eyes open for this episode with Craig Penland on Fastener Fair Global. That'll be coming any minute.
Cool.
That'll put this one in the can. For Brian Musker, this is Eric Dudas. Get out there, sell some screws. Don't get too worked up about the tariffs. It'll probably be all changed pretty quickly. And we'll talk to you next time.
Yeah, see you next time, folks.
Fully Threaded Radio is a production of Fasteners Clearinghouse.